So, it's always somewhat slightly difficult. I asked you to read Heidegger for this session, and it's always a difficult moment for me when we start with Heidegger, because Heidegger is a difficult figure. So I will talk a little bit about the whole situation with Heidegger and why I think we need this stuff. But maybe even before that, I will say, because there were a couple of things I heard going around the table. Just I want to address them generally. I think with some people, it somehow, I heard, maybe I'm wrong, but I heard something like, well, you know, we just came back from the holidays, I didn't really yet start working, or something like that, which completely understandable. But I want to say something about practice, and what does it mean to have a practice? What do you think, what does it mean for you to have a practice?
To evolve.
No, it's not who you are. What does it mean for you to have a practice?
Lifestyle.
Sorry?
Lifestyle.
Life?
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle. I don't think so. No. Okay. To have a practice, I will tell you what it is. To have a practice is finding something that you enjoy doing and doing it every day. That's what having practice means. You know? If you sit, for instance, at home thinking, God, I really need to do something for my course, but I would much rather go for a walk, watch television, read a book, have sex, have whiskey, whatever. Then don't do what you think you need to do. Do the thing you want to do. Just think about how to install it in the classroom. Yeah? So practice is not something that goes against your wishes. If you need to force yourself to do it, I mean, obviously, sometimes if you take drinking whiskey as your practice and you decide that you're going to get absolutely plastered, completely drunk every day for the sake of art, granted there will be days when you really don't want to do it, and you still have to. Yeah? So, but that's maybe an extreme example. Even though I had a student whose project was getting high every day on a different substance, and then either drawing under the influence or going for a walk and recording what happens. So I'm not recommending it as a style of work, but it can be done, you know? Whatever it is, that if you say, God, yeah, I have to do art, what I really love is horses, I'm obsessed with horses. Horses is your practice. Yeah? Whatever it is you would rather do, that is the work. And then you don't need to feel that, oh, back from holidays, life was so nice, now I have to start doing some art. This thing you did on holidays, that you enjoyed so much, what was it? Swimming in a lake? Sitting, lying on the bed doing nothing, playing computer games? Think about how you can install that. Yeah? I'm not saying it's easy. It might be actually hard. Sorry?
No, you said completely you like that's all practice.
Yeah. What?
How do we install a practice of playing everything?
Well, exactly, because installing is actually always a challenge. Yeah? But it's a more productive, I think you will enjoy more being on the course, and you will also get a clearer sense of what does it mean to be an artist. If you just figure out what is it that you would like to do anyway, and work with that. I'm not saying it's a very magic answer to how to be a great artist, but it's a first step towards developing a habit of doing something every day. By the way, if let's say you ever try to keep a diary, did it ever happen to you that you thought, well, it's really nice to have a diary, you bought a lovely notebook, maybe even a nice pen, you wrote on the first page today, and wrote the whole 2-3 pages of your diary. The next day, you wrote a page. The day after, you wrote a few lines. and then the notebook somehow just disappears from your field of view. And it kind of just stopped, yeah, and didn't work. So how do you build the habit of keeping a diary, which really is a very good practice for an artist to do? A place where you can reflect on your thoughts, on your emotions, on your world, on a regular daily basis. Just decide every time after you brush your teeth before going to bed, you write one sentence. One sentence and nothing more, nothing more. How long it will take you to write one sentence? If you're really tired and really desperate to go to sleep, maybe 30 seconds. Yeah? And if you do it immediately after you brush your teeth, and I hope you do brush your teeth before going to sleep, then it becomes a kind of automatic thing. Brush your teeth, write a sentence, go to sleep. And that's all you need to do. And after a while, you have another. Because what happens is that you write one sentence, then you might write a little bit more, and even if you don't, something is already in motion. And that's exactly how you build the habit of practice. It doesn't really matter what is it, but you need to make a daily ritual. A daily, not ritual is the wrong word, but you need to build a daily habit. You know, a day when you didn't practice is a day when you create distance between you and art. Another day you didn't practice, this becomes so big that next time you want to face your art, you're like strangers to each other. So you need to do, and so it needs to be something small, but something that you do every day. And then you think of yourself in a different way. Then you're not just a person, you are an artist with a practice. It's the whole difference. Okay, so that was just my general response to what I heard. And now we actually go to Heidegger. So, Martin Heidegger. So what do we know about Mr. Heidegger, about Herr Heidegger? What do we know about Martin Heidegger?
Slightly fascist.
Sorry?
Slightly fascist.
Slightly fascist. Well, I don't know about slightly, so the thing is, no one can escape the time of their work. Neither Heidegger could, neither we can. Heidegger was born in the second half of the 19th century, so something like 1860s, I think.
1889.
1889, yeah, that's right, 1889. And he died in something like
1976.
76. Okay, so almost 100 years, and almost entirely covering the 20th century. Yeah. So think about the period this life covers. The end of the 19th century, the telegraph is a new thing. The first telephones appeared. Maybe the first transatlantic telegrams are being sent. That's when he is born. In the streets of cities, there are still horses pulling carts when he is born. Yeah? The horse is the main mode of transport. By the time he died, there is already a man walking on the moon and ultrasonic jets, and you can go from Europe to USA in a day, in 6 hours, maybe even faster, because the Concorde is just around the corner. In the days when Heidegger was born, it probably would take you several months in a steamer. During Heidegger's time, the First World War, and the Second World War happened. Both obviously connected with Germany. The Soviet Revolution, the Chinese revolution. So think about the events that happened in the span of this life and how the world really changed from being essentially an agrarian society when he was born, driven by agriculture, to an advanced industrial society by the time he was an old man. So he saw the whole move from the plow, that you plow the earth with, to the powerful computer. Yeah, this whole span. Okay, so that's one thing to say about Heidegger. The other is that Heidegger was born into a German family which was quite sort of down to earth. He was sent to study theology. He wanted to become a priest, and then at some point he realized that this is not for him, and he moved to study philosophy. Then he very quickly distinguished himself and made a career out of his philosophy studies, became a professor, became appointed to some important positions in universities. He was the head of the university in Freiburg. He wrote a number of important books. He wrote his main book in 1930s, Being and Time. This is the book. I mean, that's Being and Time. And then, obviously, the Nazis came to power in Germany, and Heidegger became closely associated with the Nazi movement. He became member of the Nazi party. He was appointed by, in Germany, appointments like a professor have to be authorized by the Chancellor of the State. So he was appointed by Hitler himself to be the head of the university, and for a few years he was sort of the leading Nazi philosopher, or kind of the philosopher of the Reich. He then exited the Nazi party, so he was a couple of years a member of the Nazi party. He led the party a few years later, and but obviously continued living in Germany throughout the Nazi period. After the defeat of Germany in the Second World War, he was ostracized essentially for his Nazi past. He had to undergo so-called denazification, as if you can just scrub it off, you know, having a hot shower with sort of soap and brush. As part of that, he was forbidden to teach for about 10 years. And for a philosopher, you know, not being able to teach is a severe punishment, perhaps the most severe punishment imaginable, because philosophy is born out of dialogue. So this thing we have here, it is invaluable for a philosophical thought to emerge. So he was banned from teaching for about 10 years, and he returned to teaching. And the essay we're going to read today is one of the first things he published, or it's a spoken lecture. It's one of the first things he delivered after he was allowed to return to public life. Then, in the rest of his life, he wrote some additional texts. He fought to defend his legacy from these accusations of Nazism. He never really, well, many people say that he never really fully apologized. After his death, some new materials came to light, the so-called black notebooks, that revealed that he was not only supporting the Nazis, he was also actually a real anti-Semite, according to these notebooks. So what we have here is a really tainted individual, someone who absolutely was on the wrong side. Well, presuming there is a wrong side. And I think you are absolutely entitled to ask, why should we read someone like that? Why should we read someone who was supporting the Nazis? I mean, just in case you are slightly unsure what we are talking about when we talk about the Nazis, the Nazis came up with this idea that the Jews, not only the Jews, also homosexuals and people with disabilities have to be exterminated. And they developed a machine, a technology, a technique for extermination of human beings, which is called the extermination camp, like Auschwitz and many others. And people were brought there, sometimes 10,000 a day, and put on a conveyor belt of death. So that's the Nazis. It's a political movement that invented systemic, mechanized annihilation of people. So you would be absolutely entitled to ask, why should we read someone like that? And if you don't ask it, then I will ask it, because I think it's impossible to engage with his work, without addressing it. And really, I think it is really a kind of a scandal of philosophy that one of its greatest contributors is also such a painted figure. There are generally several ways by which this problem is addressed. Some people say Heidegger was a Nazi, he was an anti-Semite, and we really should have nothing to do with it. We should not read his work, we should just forget about it. I understand where people who say that are coming from. For me, this is not a satisfactory solution, because I think we then miss the opportunity to understand how Heidegger came to occupy these positions. The other people who say Heidegger was a great philosopher, he wrote some absolutely wonderful texts that are worth studying, but he was a rubbish human being, and absolutely he made some terrible choices, so we will read his works as philosophy and as a completely separate thing from his biography. For me, this is also not satisfactory, because his politics and his philosophy are not two separate things. They are connected. That is the real problem, that his philosophy is inseparable from his politics, and yet his philosophy is really interesting. That is the problem. It is deeply interesting. It is deeply relevant specifically to artists, because it has something to say about art that is incredibly valuable, and yet it's exactly that philosophy that also leads him to his Nazi politics. So my solution to that is to read Heidegger with both eyes wide open, because we want not only to understand what he says, but also to understand what he doesn't say, and to see where exactly his politics, in what way his politics and his philosophy are connected. And that is complicated, and it is kind of a dangerous territory, but I don't think there is any other way. If we want to really understand this environment that we are inhabiting, where, fascism is never too far away, and fascism is not something that's just happening over there in a different country with other bad people, but it's happening everywhere. You just need to open your eyes and look. So it becomes a very important question to understand, what causes these politics to arise, and in what way we are involved in these politics. So that's how I want to approach Heidegger, with both eyes open. But also I want to say, I'm not asking you to read Heidegger because he was a Nazi. I'm not attracted to him because he was a bad guy, I'm not asking you to read Hitler, for instance. Hitler also wrote a book, Mein Kampf. I'm not asking you to read Hitler, why? Because Hitler was an idiot, and his book is stupid, and there's no point reading it. And Heidegger is really not an idiot. His writing is deep and profound and thought-provoking and interesting. And yes, he is also a Nazi. And how someone so interesting can also hold these politics is one of the questions we want to answer. Because that somehow goes to the core of what we are trying to explore when we come to think about the work of art. Okay, and here I think he is in a, what looks like at least, in something kind of Nazi uniform, or a sort of semi-military outfit. Yeah? So, any questions so far? No, all right. So this, what I asked you to read, it's a short essay that has, so I asked you to read two things. First, the so-called point of reference, which is just one page, when it sets the key problem for this book. And then the essay, the thing, that's deep in German. A short essay. I think it really captures the philosophy of late Heidegger in a very interesting way. And once we get to understand how Heidegger is thinking, it becomes a little easier. Now, as with all these philosophers we discussed so far, I told you many times in the past, once you understand what is the key problem they are dealing with, what is the world they are coming from, reading becomes easier. Now, because, for instance, with Plato, because we understood, because before we came to Plato, we spoke about the main issue of Western philosophy. Anyone remembers what is the main question Western philosophy is concerned with? Anyone? Thales?
Everything is water, what things are.
Sorry?
When Thales said everything is water, yeah.
Yes.
Things are.
Yes. And what
Things are not as they should.
exactly? Yeah. There are two worlds. The world of the inner world and the outer world. And which one is more real? You remember? And once you understand that, then you read Plato's Cave, and it becomes quite clear what he's talking about. So you remember how in the cave there are all these images on the walls, yeah? And for Plato, the question is: these images, are they real, or are they the reality, or are they an illusion? I'm not going to go into this whole story because we've been through it several times. And then we discussed that, and we looked at how Lucie Rigaret takes the same story and says, well, Plato was focused on the images on the walls of the cave, and he forgot that between the cave and the outside world, there is the passage. You remember the forgotten vagina? Yeah? The passage, the womb of the neck. And he forgot something absolutely essential in this story. And if we focus on that, we get a completely different perspective. And I think just to continue within the same setup, and that's my own interpretation, Heidegger never spoke in this way, but if we would ask Heidegger to comment on the story of the cave, I mean, that's not really, he did comment on the story of the cave in a different book, The Essence of Truth. But Heidegger would say, okay, there are images on the walls of the cave, but there is something much more primal before we even get to the image on the wall of the cave. Because, sorry? Exactly. Before you have the image of the wall, you have the cave itself. And the cave, well, it just happens to be there. What does it mean to be there? What does it mean just happen? What are we talking about? And that really is the essence of the Heidegger's question. What does it mean that the cave or anything else is just there? How come it is there? What does it mean that it is? Well, it's all very well to say that here this is a pen, and the pen is on the table. Now, we understand what is a table. Yeah, okay. We understand what is a pen. But what is the is? Yeah? What is the is? The pen, okay, is on the table. How do you understand the is? What the is? I know what the pen is. The pen is the instrument for writing. I know what a table is. A table is a surface for eating. What the is? How can you understand the is if you don't understand the is? Because in order to understand the is, you need to ask what is. Yeah? But if you don't know what the is, how are you going to understand what the is? Sorry. But you see the point? You see the problem? So Heidegger is saying, he's not asking why the cave is there, because you could have a geological explanation to how the cave is being formed. But why there is something at all? How come there is anything? And you might say, well, what kind of stupid question if there is? What kind of stupid question is this? There is something because, there is something. But why there is something rather than nothing? So, he will say that in order for something to be, in order for something to exist, it has to be. Yeah? So, before there is a cave, there has to be something that makes it be. And this something is, well, being. Yeah? So, for Heidegger, the question is not the image on the cave, on the wall of the cave, is not the passage between the inside and the outside, but the very fact of being of the cave. So the question for Heidegger is, what is being? What does it mean to be? And he will say, basically, every philosopher picks one question or one word and explores it for the time allotted to them. So Heidegger spent his whole life trying to figure out what does it mean to be? What being means. So in his great big book, Being and Time, he discusses it over 400 pages and really doesn't get you very far. But in this essay, the thing, he discusses it in a slightly different way over 5 or 20 pages. I think exaggerating, 20 pages. And I think it's marvelously succinct. And it gets us somewhere. I just want to say that this question of being is also relevant to an artwork, isn't it? Because an artwork is also something that is. Yeah? What is the relationship between being and a work of art? So, the way I want to run this, do this session is today, we'll read the point of reference first of all, and we probably will be able only to start with the thing essay. And I will ask you to read the essay, the thing, again for next week. I suspect we will read it over 2 weeks, from next week and the one after. But every time I want you to read it again for the next session, even though you read it. Because reading Heidegger is going on an adventure. His language is good. He is notoriously a difficult philosopher. But he is not difficult once you understand what is his main question. There is also the problem of translation. He wrote in German. And German, anyone here speak German? Yeah. So, as you know, in German, it's very easy to make new words. Yeah. You take two separate concepts, put them together, and you have a new word. So, he is all the time making new words because language is kind of keeps telling us, we don't have even language to speak about this be. You saw how much trouble it was to say what the is, because we don't have different words. And it all becomes a bit muddled, and you kind of think, well, is it like a stupid word game in the end? Partly maybe that is, maybe it is, but English is not so lenient when it comes to creating new words. So translators of Heidegger have to not only to translate, but also to do a kind of a work of the interpreter. I think this is a wonderful translation. But it takes, you kind of need to get the knack to reading. Once you do it, for some students on this course, Heidegger becomes a really lifelong companion. They find infinite amount of resources for their practice in his work. Okay, so let's just see. The other thing I want to say about Heidegger is that he uses a very simple language. But just because it's simple, it's not easy. Simple and easy are not the same thing. He's never using kind of philosophical jargon. You will never see him talking about hermeneutics, epistemology. No, he uses a very everyday words, but in a way that makes them very not everyday. Right, without further ado, let's get into the little essay, the point of reference, and bear in mind, we all the time mindful of his philosophy and politics. And it's interesting, we will have to see very soon how these things are so complicated. So, could someone start for us with the first few sentences? I guess, let's read the first paragraph of the point of reference. Could someone try to read? So the first title and then the point of reference. Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Could you start with the title?
The point of reference. All distances in time and space are shrinking. Places that the person previously reached after weeks and months on the road are now reached via plane overnight.
Carlotta, I will stop you from time to time just to make sure that people are following. How does it sound so far? Okay, yeah? Not too bad, Heidegger, yeah? But people say it's complicated. Places, so you see how it's really the arch of his life. Places that person previously reached after weeks and months on the road, now reached by airplane overnight. Yeah? Okay. Carol, please.
What the person previously received news of only after years, if at all, is now experienced hourly over the radio in no time.
Thank you. 1 second. Yeah? So, let's say the assassination of Soleimani in Iran a few days ago. If, let's say, this assassination took place 100 years ago, we would probably read about it in a paper, and if it was 150 years ago, we might hear about it from a traveler 6 months after it happened. Yeah? But of course now, in the 24-hour news cycle, we know about things that happen on the outside of the world instantly. Yeah? So, that makes sense? Yeah? See, I think it's easy.
The germination and flourishing of plants that remain concealed through the seasons feel now as bits publicly in a single minute.
So what do you think he's talking about here in this sentence? Because I think he's talking about a very specific and familiar photographic technique. Do you know what it's called? Video technique. Sorry? Exactly, yeah. So you know how you can film, let's say, the germination of a seed and how the seed grows to become a plant. You can speed up the projection, or you film at a different speed, and then you can see the whole growth that takes months just in a matter of seconds. Yeah? Okay, good. Now, next one, please.
Film shows the distant cities of the most ancient cultures as if they stood at this very moment amidst today's street traffic.
Yeah.
Beyond these, film further attests to what it shows while simultaneously displaying the recording apparatus itself at work along with the humans who serve it. The pinnacle of all such removals of distance is achieved by television, which will soon race through and dominate the entire scaffolding
Yes, good.
and commotion of commerce.
Okay, okay. So, what do you think this whole paragraph, how would you summarize this whole paragraph? Well, essentially, it just repeats the same idea, doesn't it? How would we summarize this whole paragraph?
That's images are moving things faster and bringing up closer.
So say it again?
That's images are moving things faster and bringing up closer and invading every aspect of life.
Well, yeah. Well, but it's not only images, you see. It's that because there are also airplanes and trains and fast communication. Everything is accelerated. Everything is speeding up. So what took months to achieve in the past now can take minutes. Things that happen thousands of miles away, we know about instantly. And with technology, in other words, makes shrinks distances, eliminates distances, makes the whole world very accessible. Yeah, everything speeds up. Okay, so that's quite clear. And had he lived today, he would probably talk about Skype, how you can be talking to someone in a different time zone. I was asked, by the way, I need to tell you, by the Art Institute of Chicago to give to speak to their students. They read the book I published last semester. So they read it and they asked me to speak to the students. I said, yes, why not? I would be happy to via Zoom or Skype. And then it transpired, I didn't think about it, that there is like a 6-hour difference, but then they start at 6D their time, so which is 1:30 in the morning. I don't come in exactly at the start, so it's 1:30 in the morning my time on Wednesday. So it will be basically, I realize that I will have about 2 hours sleep before coming here and doing the seminar with you in a few weeks' time, because it will be, I start like about 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning, and it's like 3 hours or something. But so I will let you know in advance. I will probably be quite wired when it happens. But isn't it quite astonishing that and we take this so nonchalantly, as if it's sort of the most obvious thing ever, that you can just be present in a room with people in Chicago, yeah, while being in London over all this time. How is it possible? We are not even in the same day of the week. They are in the Tuesday, I'm in the Wednesday. How is it even possible? It's kind of, isn't it like time travel? Yeah, it's completely insane, and we just take it as a something taken for granted. So, okay, the next paragraph, please. It's a short one. So, Carol, could you? If you want, sure. Just this one, the human.
The human puts the longest stretches behind himself in the shortest time. He puts the greatest distances behind him, and thus puts everything at the shortest distance before him.
Okay, what do you think that means? The human puts the longest stretches behind himself in the shortest time. How do you understand? It's slightly awkward language, yeah? But what do you think it means? What does it mean to put the longest stretches behind himself in the shortest time.
That impacts the impact life much more and faster as well.
Exactly. Well, it's like driving on the motorway. On the motorway, yeah? And when you drive for a long time on the motorway, you forget that it is really quite amazing and scary that you're moving at, I don't know, 150 kilometers an hour, about, I don't know, 90 miles or something an hour, and you feel like you're sitting in your living room, you know, because you're in this kind of bubble, but it's completely unnatural, yeah? And you put all this distance behind you in the shortest time, and you all the time want to, you know, you always want to have a faster car, to be in the faster lane, to get it over with as soon as possible. Okay. Now, the next, thank you very much, Ruben. Lisa Marie, could you read the next paragraph? No, so for a second. Now, pay attention, because so far it was just describing something very simple in one sentence that would summarize in one sentence. Now comes the yet, or however. So pay attention, Lisa.
Yet the hazy setting aside of all distances brings no nearness. For nearness does not consist in a small amount of distance. What confronts us at the shortest distance in terms of length, through the imagery of film or the sound of the radio, can remain remote to us. What is vastly far away in terms of length can be near to us. Short distances, or rather short distance, is not already nearness. Great distance is not yet remoteness.
Good. What do you think he's saying here?
That the physical doesn't necessarily match the internal.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, that the physical doesn't necessarily match the internal. Because something's physically closer, because an image doesn't mean it's closer to you.
Exactly.
Or you're more aware of it because it's far.
Exactly. So he's saying that just because you are conquering distance, it doesn't bring you closer. Some things, he says, can be very far away, but very close to us. Other things can be close, but really distant. Yeah? So, distance, in other words, is not a measure of intimacy. You can be intimate with something or someone who are far away, and you can be very close to someone with whom you don't have any intimacy or connection. Any questions? Okay. I think this is a very important sentence here. What confronts us at the shortest distance in terms of length through the imagery of film or the sound of the radio can remain remote to us. Yeah? So Heidegger, in a sense, asks us to distinguish between distance as measurement, so that's Jamie, something you can think about, the difference between distance as a measurement and distance as intimacy. How do you measure intimacy? What distance you need to be from someone to feel intimate with them? Well, it's the wrong question, isn't it? Because it's not a question of whether I'm far away from you or close to you. For me to be intimate with someone, it's not enough to come and stand next to them. If I stand next to you, I'm close to you, but does it mean that I know you? Does it mean that we are connected? Does it mean that we have an intimacy of some kind? No, of course not. It's not enough. So just coming and standing next to someone is not making them near you. Yeah? So you see, Heidegger already makes you think about the double meaning of distance. Yeah? You can stand close to me, and I feel really distant from you. And sometimes you can feel deeply connected with something that happens very far away. Okay, so, and for that reason, the last sentence is here. Short distance is not already nearness, great distance is not yet remoteness. So far, it's a kind of map. We are threading kind of very thin, shallow water. Do you want to have a break now? Or continue? Yeah, fine. But, okay. We can finish this. It's everything. So what? Lina, did you say something? You want a break?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine. So can you please be here 5 to 12? 5 to 12.
I really want to everything is neither far nor near, and as it were, without distance.
Okay. So what do you think is said here? What is this uniformity wherein everything is neither far nor near, and as it were, without distance? So how do you understand that? Does it make any sense to you? So earlier, Heidegger said, look how all the distances are shrinking. That was the first thing. Then he said, but despite distances shrinking, we don't get closer to anything. Because being physically close is not bringing us any nearer. Yeah? So there is closeness and nearness. And he wants us to think about the difference between them. And then he says, what is happening when, through the removal of great distances, everything stands equally near and far? Where do you think that happens? That through the removal of great distances, everything stands equally near and far. Where do you notice something like that happening? Good. So, can you give us an example?
Like an example of binary information and information transfer, that everything remains the same, but also very different distance-wise and travel at the same speed and communicate using. But they're very. But then obviously we can feel very close to hashtag what we agree.
Yeah.
You feel that emotion of that fit, but then the distance is not quite happening, and it's not still very far. So there's that duality.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm thinking in this context about something like, for instance, Google Earth, or sorry, traveling, or Google Maps. You know, you can put here something like, you know, and you can drop your pin somewhere, and lo and behold, where are we now? Here we are in Colombia. Yeah? And what are we doing here? Why are we here? Hiking. Yeah. So, and are we nearer? Are we any nearer? Because we, you know, here is this plant growing, this bush growing on the mountain in Colombia. And we,
experience of this is paradoxical because this is not now, this is now.
this is from 2012. Yeah. So maybe it's not there at all. Maybe it's all dying in the drought. But nevertheless, we have a kind of intimate connection with this beat right now because we see it so clearly and all this into detail. But are we any nearer? Do we have a real? Do we really inhabit this place? Or you can just take the Google Street View and look at the place where you were born, you know? And I think that really, Will is right, that we remove distances, everything, and then everything becomes equally near and far.
It's like the pull and zoom effects, like in Hitchcock does it, where it's like you zoom into your character but pull away, so the distance,
Yeah.
the background gets larger, but the subject was remains.
Exactly. So that's also a specific optical, kind of filmic effect. And then you see the next sentence. What is that uniformity? What is that uniformity when everything is neither far nor near, and as it is without distance? Because now, look, in the space here in the room, I can say, for instance, that Will is nearer to me than Ken, for instance. Yeah? And it makes sense, because you can just take a ruler and measure the distances. But if we speak about the kind of the online environment, as Will was suggesting, what does it mean online that you are nearer or distant to someone? Because online distance is not measured in meters or centimeters or steps. It's kind of clicks. Yeah? So you're equally near to everything. You can just dial in any place. You can put the coordinates of any location in the world. You can also, I can go on Facebook and befriend, anyone I want. But is it a sign of intimacy? I have 200 friends, so-called friends on Facebook, but does it mean that I'm surrounded with 200 people who are my friends, that I can, really, what does it mean to be a friend? It's someone who will come to your aid when you need them, someone who is there for you, someone with whom you can share, something intimate. But these friendships online, they're something else. They're exactly as Heidegger is saying, they're neither far nor near. Yes?
So does this sentence also have relevance without the technology?
Well, he is talking about the effects of technology.
Because, so let's suppose here in London, when I have to go to, Marble Arts,
Yeah.
so we measure the distance by kilometers, right? But when I'm trekking,
Yeah.
I measure distance by altitude and the time it will take
Yeah.
to reach from 4,000 meters
Yeah.
to 4,500 meters.
Yeah.
So does this sentence have that relevance in if there is not any technology or?
Well, first, I don't know what it means there is not any technology. How can there be something without technology?
I just give the example of taking.
Yeah, but how would you know your altitude without technology? Even if it's a ruler or a tape measure, it's still.
Yeah, even if we don't have technology, we will be more tired, and even the lesser distance will be more.
I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm sorry. How is that connected to Marble Arch? What is the question?
Yeah, the concept, the idea of distance.
Yes.
So if we are feeling very hard to walk,
Yes.
then even the smaller distances
Can appear difficult.
can be
Okay.
difficult.
No, that's not what he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
He's talking about, you need to look at the early thing. He's not talking about that, going downhill is easier than going uphill. That's not, would be worse writing, or maybe it would be, but that's clearly not what he is doing. He is saying, look what technology is doing to us. That is basically what he wants us to think about, how our life is affected by technology. So on one hand, he says, well, everyone says technology makes things so much easier. It's so much easier now to move from one continent to another, from, Africa to Europe, from Europe to Australia. It's so much easier too, but does it make us more closer to it? How this technology actually affects us? And he says, well, everything becomes equidistant from each other. And this equidistance might be zero. Maybe we will soon have this kind of supersonic aircraft. I read yesterday that Uber are developing flying taxis. So soon you will be able to just fly from here to Marble Arch, and be there in 2 seconds. But just because it is faster, is anything really becomes nearer? We can see the seed growing into a flower in the field in a matter of seconds, but does it make us any closer to the flower? Does it make us any more connected with the world, that we now have all these ways of studying and learning? You can watch a film on television about what is happening 3,000 meters under the sea level, where no human can ever go, but they can send a robot with a camera, and you can see these creatures. Does it make you care for your world any better, any more? Does it make you feel closer to the world you inhabit? That's what he's talking about. And he says, in the end, everything can be seen on the computer screen. Everything can appear on your smartphone. But just because the smartphone can show you anything in the world, it does not make the world any closer to you. So it is about technology. Yeah? Okay. Now, we need to read the next, well, that won't be paragraph for this section. So, everything washes together. Who could read that? Yeah, thank you.
Everything washes together into the uniform distances. How? Is not this moving together into the distances even more uncanny than everything being out of place? The human is transfixed by what could come about with the explosion of the atomic bomb. The human doesn't see what for a long time now has already arrived and even is occurring, and for which the atomic bomb and its explosion are merely the latest emission, not to speak of the hydrogen bomb, whose detonation through in its broadest possibility could be enough to wipe out all life on Earth. What is this cruelest anxiety waiting for if the horrible has already occurred?
Good. So, as you see, Heidegger slightly. So, you see, if let's say there was a musical background to this piece, then now the tone becomes very somber. Suddenly, it all shifts into the minor scale. And instead of celebrating these advances of technology and science and how great life is in the 20th century, everything washes together into the uniformly distanceless. Why distanceless? Because all this speeding up, obliterates distances. Yeah? So, it really is not a problem to hop on a train and be, in Manchester in a couple of hours, while previously it would be a project that maybe would take 2 days of travel. So, but everything becomes distanceless. We don't think any longer about how far something is, because we get on the train or a car or the plane, we switch on our phone, and now these days you don't even need to turn your Wi-Fi off when on the phone, on the plane. And we basically, there is no distance, because just as you would be playing Candy Crush on your sofa, you play Candy Crush in a plane, and then you finish playing and hope you're in New York, yeah, or whatever. So there is no distance anymore. Everything becomes equally distanceless. Yeah, people get on the train in the morning, open the laptop, do 2 hours work, get on the train, they have a meeting, come back on the train, do some more work, get on the train, they're at home. So it's like you didn't travel anywhere. Yeah, everything becomes distanceless. Do you understand where this distanceless is coming from? And Rorschach, you see that it is specifically about technology. It's not about the energy or the effort it takes to climb somewhere. And then he says, is not this moving together into the distanceless even more uncanny than everything being out of place? And he says, isn't there something, what do you know what is uncanny? Anyone knows uncanny? What is uncanny?
It's like obscure.
It's not exactly obscure, no, it's more than that. Did you say obscure?
Obscure, yeah.
It's not obscure, it's
It's in the sense that it's like perfection, but not like in a really uncomfortable way.
well, you are right that it's something very uncomfortable. It's not to do with perfection, something uncanny,
The familiar.
unfamiliar.
Or familiar. Or familiar or unfamiliar.
Well,
It's
it's
not silly, like it's unusual.
it's unusual, but in a dreadful way. Yeah. So it's uncanny. There is a famous essay by Freud, the uncanny, and the German word for the uncanny is unheimlich, and that means literally unholy. Unholy. So something like that, even though it's not the English word. Unholy. Yeah. So something homely, it's something familiar, cozy, safe. Unholy is unfamiliar, but also it's not strange. It's when something familiar becomes unfamiliar. So let's say, I will give you an example which, let's say, let's say someone, you shake someone's hand and they give you a hand to shake, and you realize that it's not a hand, it's a prosthetic, it's a plastic hand. It looks like a hand. So it looks like a hand. It's the hands are familiar, but it's like a hand, but it's not. It's uncanny, unhomely. Yeah. Now, if it is something that doesn't look at all like a hand, it might look, but it will not evoke this sense of something both homely, both familiar and unfamiliar. Yeah? Or I think the classic example that Julia Kristeva uses in her essay on the uncanny is when you go down the street and you see a dead kitten in the gutter. A kitten is this kind of lovely, fluffy, cute creature. And it's still lovely, fluffy and cute, but it's also dead. And because it is dead, it didn't stop being lovely, fluffy and cute, but it's also dead. So now it is uncanny, unholy. Yeah? And it's not any less fluffy, but it's somehow the cuteness disappeared because it's dead.
So
Yeah?
it's a disturbing aspect of it then.
So, sorry?
It's the disturbing
There is a disturbing aspect of it. So Kristeva would say, what is uncanny about the kitten is that it reminds you of your own mortality. Yeah? And that basically what the uncanny does. It somehow shakes you out of your sense of security in the world. It makes you realize that everything you consider familiar and safe and homely is actually not. If, for instance, you all here will suddenly turn out to be not humans but zombies. Yeah? But look the same as you are now, but also zombies. that would be uncanny for me. Yeah? So, do you know, have you ever heard the expression, the uncanny valley? Yeah? So the uncanny valley, there is probably a diagram for that. So the uncanny valley, here I spelled uncanny wrongly, it's with two N's, yeah? So the uncanny valley is, describes the development of robots. And so it says that as robots being developed, there is a kind of moment when, so first, you know, let's say a very basic robot, something like a security camera that can turn and survey things. That is not uncanny. We see it as an instrument, maybe automated instrument. It doesn't make us, oh my God, what is that? You know, your vacuum cleaner at home is not scary. But the robot vacuum, like the ones you wrote, they're slightly uncanny. They have something uncanny about them when they start kind of moving and bumping into each other. So this is simple technology, even though it's automated and has maybe some intelligence, we don't really react to it emotionally. Something like that has a slight humanoid feature, and it might be a camera and it can turn around and look at you. Okay. And then you might get into robots that are much more like humanoids, that look like humans but are robotic. And that's the uncanny moment. That's what people find really difficult to accept, that the entities inhabit the same space with us are not human. Yeah? I don't know if you noticed in the King's Cross train station, there is this cutout of a woman that stands by the escalator, and she says, if you have a bag, don't go by the escalator, take the lift. Did you see her? Yeah? And that's, I think, very uncanny. It's kind of a cutout with a projection on it. And she just keeps repeating this sentence. Yeah? Why they need to have this person standing there and telling you why it could be like a sign. But so when the robot becomes human-like, it starts to be uncanny. At some point later on, this theory goes, the humanoid robot is so completely indistinguishable from a normal human that the uncanny element disappears, because, you know, they look just like us. So all these all these TVs, television series, The Humans, have you seen that? It was about a family that brings in a robot to live with them. So this uncanny valley is a classic popular culture motive, but that's basically the uncanny. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You will come across this a lot. People talking about the uncanny. So it's worth knowing, and Heidegger is using it in a very specific way. He says, is not this moving together into the distanceless even more uncanny than everything being out of place? And then he says, the human is transfixed, the human being us, yeah? The human is transfixed by what would come about with the explosion of the atomic bomb. The human does not see what for a long time now has already arrived and even is occurring, and for which the atomic bomb and its explosion are merely the latest emission, not to speak of the hydrogen bomb, What do you think he says here? I think that is fascinating insight. He says, we're sitting around worry about the end of the world. Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether it is avian flu epidemic or climate emergency or a nuclear war. We are sitting here worrying about the end of the world, not realizing that it already happened. It already happened because this moving faster and faster made everything the same to us. Everything became universally bland, universally distanceless. In a sense, he says, well, I paraphrase slightly, but he says, the world is obliterated not by the nuclear bomb, but by the smartphone. It's the smartphone that ends the world because it makes everything equally available on this little screen. You know, your wedding anniversary, your first kiss, the Roman Empire, the Holocaust, your dinner from yesterday, you know, a meme with a cat on a skateboard, the landing on the moon, assassination of JFK, everything is available in the same screen, in the same pixels, in the same way. The world is ended at that point because everything is the same. So there's no point in worrying about the world ending with a big disaster because it already did. That's that, and here you see the philosopher speak. Until now, it was kind of preparing the ground. There is a French philosopher, writer, and Blanchot, and he wrote a book based on that. And it's called The Writing of a Disaster. The Writing of a Disaster. And in this book, it's a lovely little book. He says, he says, sitting around waiting for the disaster to happen is what the disaster looks like. It's not like we are waiting for it to happen and then it will happen and things will become terrible. No. Sitting, waiting for it to happen, that is the terrible. Yeah? And in a sense, that's where we are now, no? Because with every news flash, you are told that the disaster is on its way, which either comes from a new war in the Middle East, or from the climate that already sort of obliterated 1/3 of Australia, or the melting of the ice in the Arctic, or an uncontrollable disease that mutates from some kind of bird species, and we're basically sitting here wondering which one of those will be first. And Blanchot saying, following this Heideggerian insight, that's what the disaster looks like. It's not something that's going to happen. It already happened. In a sense, it's a kind of almost a relief. Like, oh, well, it already happened. But this is just what it is. But this is, I think, so important. The human is transfixed by what could come about with the explosion of the atomic bomb. The human does not see what for a long time has already arrived. The atomic bomb already arrived, not because there are already armed nuclear heads that just wait for someone to press a button and being fired. This annihilation of the world arrived via the technology that strives to make everything appear faster, get closer, and be more accessible. Because in striving for this, in striving to speed everything up, we lose sight of this thing we're dealing with. We lose sight of the world. And the clearest example for it could be how, as I said earlier, we have all these wonderful programs now about the ocean life and these beautiful creatures that live in the sea. The amazing octopus with the two hearts, the whales that sing these songs, and at the same time, the ocean is basically dead because it's so full of plastic. You saw this picture of the crab trapped in a plastic cup. Actually, it reminds me of something we talked about. There was this picture in the news not long ago about a crab trapped in a plastic cup or in a bottle. Yeah, something like that. And all these amazing animals, they just die like this because they get into this plastic and they can never get out and they can never find any food. So that, Heidegger says, is the annihilation. And the reason that is happening is because of this incessant trying to speed things up. Which, remind me, I don't know if we should talk about it now or later. Okay, I will talk about it now because this is just so pertinent. So, I want to suggest something that we will agree not to have disposables in this room. Disposable bottles and disposable cups. How do you feel about it? Which means you get yourself a flask for coffee and a bottle for water like this. Have you got this slide? Yeah. And we're not going to have disposables in the room. What do you think about that? Great. It's good? Anyone?
Yeah.
If you don't agree for whatever reason, and I don't know, you might have legitimate reasons, and you might not want to talk about it now, can you come and tell me later? But if you are all fine with that, I will put a sign on the door later on, no disposables in this one. We just see how it goes as an experiment. Okay? Good.
Question.
Yes.
Plastic bag labels which are reused.
Well, if it's not disposable, it's not disposable. I mostly mean the coffee cups that they give you, And I became so averse to these coffee cups now that if I don't have my own flask, I just don't ever go and buy coffee outside because it just feels so wrong. Yeah? But these kind of things only work if everyone is happy with it. And so if anyone has any objections, come talk to me. But otherwise, if you are fine with that, I will put a sign here and we'll see. I also would be interested to think about what does it mean to art practice. It's possible, for instance, not to have disposables in art, but that's a separate question. So anyway, good. So, and now, what is this clueless anxiety waiting for if the horrible has already occurred? Yeah? So you see how Heidegger, very uncanny of him, very cunning, how he begins, probably it's like, yeah, technology, yeah, trains, airplanes, life is good, 21st century, bring it on. And then, within a couple of paragraphs, he turns it completely around and says, just because you can get everywhere faster doesn't get you closer to anything. And in fact, everything becomes exactly the same. Everything has exactly the same appearance. You experience everything as pixels on your screen. And what all this uniformity, when a birthday cake, the Holocaust, landing on the moon, the first kiss, a pair of shoes, they all look the same because they're all represented in an image, and representation is the key. Everything is represented as pixels on the screen, no matter what it is. You name it, we can represent it. In the same way, on the same screen, with the same pixels, everything is the same. So we create the world of uniform sameness. In this world of uniform sameness, the world as it was is already annihilated. There are no more mountains, plants, brooks, sheep. There's only pixels on the screen. Yeah? And when you look at people walking down the road like this, and I see it all the time because I cycle, and people just walk, into the road like this. Then you realize, I always think about these sentences from Heidegger. The whole world is brought to you through this device, but also everything by means of this device becomes exactly the same. Yeah? Question? Yes?
I just want to use my life experience to feel my understanding. Because of the distance, we are more connected. I can come from all the way to China, from China to London to study. So
Yes.
it's like I'm bombarded with choices.
Yeah.
So, but it means that distance, the physical distance is shorter,
Yeah.
but the conscious distance is bigger.
What is it? Because
Conscious distance. Because conscious distance.
Consciousness.
Because if I want to cultivate conscious intimacy, I have to invest in time. But so because I have so many choices, so for each choices, the time I allocate is much more smaller. So that's why we have bigger distance from all the choices.
Yeah.
But because I come to London, everybody is more distance to me.
Yeah.
I'm closer to myself. So
Okay.
at the same time, when everything is the same, I do feel there's a new difference could emerge by being closer to myself. I just say my reflection from the other thing is that to respond to what you said is that I just discussed with a senior investment banker, and she told me the biggest problem of capitalism is losing diversity because everything is connected. The economic cycle.
Let me stop you here because that takes us a little bit away from what we are dealing with. This question of how this acceleration affects banking and finance is very interesting. And I don't know if anyone here has a background in finance. Yeah? So do you know about dark pools? Dark pools?
The name of a person?
No. There are mechanisms to work with derivatives that operates at such incredibly fast speed that no human can understand what is going on. And anyway, this it's interesting. It just takes us slightly away. What I want to go to the last paragraph. So who is reading now? Danny, could you read the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Injustice.
Just a short bit.
Yeah, the last one.
Could you highlight it?
Yes. Oh, no. Yes.
Thank you. The horrifying is what transposes all that is out of its previous essence. What is so horrifying? It reveals and conceals itself in the way that everything presences, namely that despite all overcoming distance, the nearness of that which remains is outstanding.
Okay. So here we come to the crux of this story. What is so horrifying? What is so bad? What is so terrible, Heidegger? Tell us. And he says, what is so horrifying? I tell you. It's that despite all overcoming of distance, the nearness of that which is remains outstanding. That which is. You remember I told you the pen is on the table, but what is this is? The cave is here, the cave is. Is the cave real? Of course it's real. How do we know it's real? Well, because it is. It is. What more there is to say? The nearness of that which is remains outstanding. Outstanding means missing, unavailable. Yeah? Despite all overcoming of distance, we have no nearness. That is the horrifying. The horrifying reveals and conceals itself in the way that everything presences. Presences is in the way everything is presented to us. Despite all this technology, the nearness of that which is remains outstanding. So, as we can see here, Heidegger calls this little essay the point of reference for the whole book. So the question for the whole book is, in simple terms, what is happening to the world what is happening in the age of advanced technology? And he says that in the age of advanced technology, everything gets accelerated because we have electricity and we have massive resources of power. We can achieve things much, much faster than before. The consequence of that is that everything becomes under our control. We're basically now the masters of the world. We can control all of it and do whatever we want with it. Travel it, photograph it, film it, frack it, drill it, everything. We are the masters of the world. But in becoming the masters of the world, we also at the same time obliterate the world. We obliterate, we're not even talking here about physical obliteration, we are obliterated by making everything into a picture, by representing everything as in, for instance, Google Maps or Google Earth. Every place on Earth, from the Amazon to the rainforest to the ice peaks in the Arctic, everything appears on our screen. And while the shapes are different, ultimately everything is made the same via representation. And this making everything the same, Heidegger says, destroys everything just as surely as an atomic bomb. Okay.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I've got a question. I don't understand the last sentence. The nearness of that which is remains
Outstanding. Excellent. That's very good, because this is the key question. So, the nearness of that which is. So, what is the is here? How do you understand the is?
Being. It's a present tense.
It's being, yeah, it's the nearness of that which is. What is? Well, the cave, the world, this table, this all. The nearness of that which is remains outstanding. It means that what outstanding means, it's not outstanding in the sense of exceptional. I can say, oh, well, the lasagna was outstanding, which means it was incredibly tasty. This is not that kind of outstanding. It means outstanding, standing outside. Yeah? So it's not, it really can be confusing. So everything that is present in the world is outside of us, is standing outside of us. We are outside of the world. That was going on. Yeah? So the nearness of that which exists is outstanding, is standing out. Yes?
I couldn't understand. It reveals and conceals itself in a way that everything presence is what?
It reveals this one.
Yeah. What is that?
That, well, as I said, that everything, what reveals and conceals means, we will understand later on, because that's how Heidegger understands the essence of truth. The truth is that everything is standing outside of us. So you can imagine how things were before this advanced technology. Before this advanced technology, and I'm talking here from a Heideggerian perspective, people and their environment were closely connected. Yeah. So, for instance, China is a country that had an accelerated technological development over the last 20 years that is so concentrated that it's kind of good to take it as an example. So, there are quite a few people here who came from China. Probably maybe even your parents, not even your grandparents, maybe even your parents remember a very different life when your food came from the field near your house. It didn't come from the supermarket. And to get this food, you had to work in the field. So you were really connected with the earth, because if you didn't look after it properly, if you were, let's say, neglecting your piece of land, there would be nothing to eat. Yeah? So the connection between you and your land and your field was very intimate. You were really involved in it. You almost felt it like your own body, like your own skin. You had to really look after it, because agriculture is hard and things don't grow if you don't really put all your heart and soul into cultivating stuff. Now, and then in your own parents' lifetime, things really changed, and then you don't need to go to the field to get your rice or your vegetables. You can go to the supermarket and get it for money. And now, so you spend your days not working in the field, but perhaps working in the factory or in an office. And working in an office, it gives you the money to buy your rice and vegetables and drinks or whatever. But you don't feel about the work in the office in the same way you felt about working in the field. The field was the extension of you, but the office isn't, the factory isn't. You do it because you have to. And normally you don't even know what you are doing. Either you're working on an Excel sheet, or you attaching piece A to piece B with something. You don't even know whether it is a missile you are building, or a computer game, or a robot. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is to attach the pieces and do something to them. So, the connection with your labor, with your world, is very different. Yeah. So, the field, as I said, was the extension of your body. The factory or the office are not. Yeah. And when that happens, then the world becomes outstanding, standing outside of you. It's not part of you anymore. That's how Heidegger understands what happened to us in the age of advanced technology. We lost this connection with the essential, with the material. Yeah? Okay, so how are we doing with this so far? I kind of guess you might be wondering, where is it all going? Why are we doing it, and how is it going to be helpful for doing your work or for writing your essay? So this thing of nearness, what is it? How do you understand practice, art practice, in relation to that? Well, one way might be that perhaps in art, it is possible to recover some of this connection with matter, with things, with things that technology obliterates. And it's not because art doesn't want to use technology, but it's because art might want to ask what technology is doing to us. Yeah? So the thing, the essay, begins with at the same place where the point of reference dropped off. Shall we maybe now move to that part of the room and ask someone else to read? How do things stand with news? So I want to say we are now in the essay. Probably just read a couple of paragraphs to me today. Please.
How do things stand with nearness? How can we experience its essence? Nearness, it seems, cannot be immediately found. We sooner achieve this by pursuing what is in the vicinity. In the vicinity are what we customarily name things. But what is a thing? How long has the human observed and questioned things? How variously has he used them, and, indeed, even used them up? And guided by such intentions, how insistently has he also explained the things? That is, led them back to their causes. The human has proceeded in this manner with things for a long time, and he is even still so proceeding, without ever once in all this considering the thing as a thing.
What do you think this is about?
That people would engage more with representations of things and the things themselves. So like food, this is something that you have to grow and take care of yourself. It just becomes a thing you buy at the market.
Anyone else?
Like
Yes, no?
our access to things, our access to using things, like a hat.
Like a hat. You say?
Yeah, like once you put on your head, it's no longer really a hat, it's keeping your head warm.
It's keep your head
So
warm.
the thing is acting differently, so you access it.
So, yeah, you see, the thing with Heidegger is that he's asking a very, very simple question. But because it is so simple, it is also incredibly hard. How do things stand with nearness? How can we experience its essence? Where can we find nearness? So, we said earlier in the previous section how everything is equally distanceless and we are not any closer to the world just because now we have all these programs, all these nature programs on television. So, where can we find nearness? So Heidegger says, well, let's just look around, see what is nearby. So, well, nearby are things. What kind of things? Well, in my case, my car, my flask, the laptop, the table, the cable, the chair, the notebook, the phone, the pen, the floor, the wall, all these things. So, I'm surrounded by things, coming to think about it. And for as long as humans been thinking, they've been also collecting, producing, cataloging, naming various things, and even, as Heidegger says, using them up. Yeah? Even, using them until there is nothing left. And yet, in all this time, we never actually considered the thing as a thing. What does it mean we never considered the thing as a thing? It means that we consider these things in terms of what they are to us. So this is a phone. I can make phone calls, I can browse Wikipedia. This is a notebook. I can write into it. This is a flask. I can drink from it. But what is it in itself? And Heidegger says we never actually stop to ask that question. Now, I just want to say here a little side comment about politics. Because this, as you can see, as you saw from this essay, the point of reference from this little 3-paragraph essay, Heidegger is deeply concerned, you might say, about the impact of technology on the world. Yeah, it's a problem for him. In the time when Heidegger was active, in the first, let's say, in the first half of the 20th century, the place most closely associated with technology was the United States of America. That's where technology took off in a really big way. That's where you had Ford cars and the car maker who invented the conveyor belt manufacturing. It was seen by Europeans as a society of the future driven purely by technology and money, where there was no value to history, tradition, culture, literature, poetry, nature. All of this was seen completely insignificant in comparison to machines and money. The Americans who came to Europe took one look at it and said, well, I'm going to buy it. Some American guy wanted to buy the Tower Bridge and bring it, I forgot into where, I think maybe Arkansas or something like that. True story, by the way, the Tower Bridge is the one with all the yeah. So some American wanted to buy the Tower Bridge and bring it to his ranch, but because he said that he wants to buy the London Bridge, which is not so magnificent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to say in the US, if you Google London Bridge, that would come up, but I think it does here as well.
Yeah, but it's the wrong one. That's actually London Bridge.
Yeah.
That's like what
Yeah.
Google is.
So he ordered one London Bridge, and he expected to get this, but they actually beautifully removed the bridge and sent it to him, and then put another one. But it was just this plain sort of box standard normal bridge. But anyway, the point is that was the face of the future, this American culture, but everything can be bought, but there is no respect for anything, and this American lifestyle with its advanced technology and its endless supply of energy and money was a really threatening force for those Europeans who were precious about their culture. And it just so happened that some of these Europeans in the 1930s thought that the fascist movements in Europe, the fascist movement in Italy and the fascist movement in Germany, are a kind of force against this Americanization of everything. That these nascent fascist movements spoke about going back to nature, connecting with the farmer, with the black forest, going back to the national roots, and many people, naively, we now know, thought that this is a kind of antidote to all this technological insanity. That these movements, and it's interesting that the Nazi movement was also the first green movement. They were the first ones who were talking about the preservation of nature. It was part of their ideology. Yeah? And And I think it's easy, I'm not saying it's understandable, but it's easy to see why someone will get seduced by a movement that says, well, we need to stop all this technology of everything, we need to stop all this Americanization, we need to go back to the traditional values of the land and the little garden and the family and these slow, good, old-fashioned European things. Presented in that way, it doesn't sound too dangerous. Yeah? But then, obviously, these sentiments developed into forms of nationalism and racism that really showed the true face of these fascist movements. But I think it's important to understand that many people who were attracted to fascism in the 30s didn't like wake up one day and said, I just really want to be as evil as possible. There was something deeply seductive. It was a kind of, I don't want to draw contemporary parallels because it will get me in so much trouble. But I think nowadays there's also a lot of people who prefer things the way they used to be. And some very skilled politicians, both here and in the United States, know how to use this feeling of being terrified from what is to come, from technology, from this new world that technology delivers to us. So some politicians know how to exploit these fears in order to build a political base. For that reason, I think Heidegger is really interesting and relevant to us as well. And I think it's a real bind, you know, because these fears are real, you know. And politicians' ability to use them in order to create a movement that begins from, well, let's just go back to the way things were in the 70s, when like simple people knew their neighbors, people, you know, said hello in the street. Let's just go back to these values. From that to say, let's just get rid of all the foreigners and then get rid of all the immigrants, because most people used to have them in the 70s, as if. So this is what Freud calls the slippery slope. Yeah, the slippery slope. We'll go about that. So I think that's one of the reasons people like Heidegger found themselves attracted to the early stages of the Nazi movement, because it promised something organic in the face of all this crazy technology. Yeah? Which is not an attempt to somehow explain it, but perhaps to understand where this is coming from. Okay, so the human proceeded with this in this manner with things for a long time, and he is even still so proceeding without ever once in all this considering the thing as a thing. So you can see what this essay will try to do. This essay will try to consider the thing as a thing. That, I think, already becomes deeply relevant to an artist. So, for instance, when Jeremy, you brought the tape measures on a Monday, and I said, I don't know what I said, but the point is that what will happen if you will consider the tape measure really as a thing, not as a device for measuring, which is what we use it for, just like we use the phone to make phone calls, but what will happen to your relationship with this thing if you consider it as a thing, not in terms of what you get out of it, but what is it in itself? I mean, can we talk about it in itself? Does it have a mind of its own? But maybe it does have a mind of its own. If it has a voice, what is it speaking of? Yeah? Is it sort of lying there wanting to measure stuff? Or maybe it wants to do something else. Maybe it belongs to something. So how can you uncover the thingness of the thing you are working with? That could be leather, that could be a cast, that could be foam, or a robot, or water, or ice. These are all things. So what Heidegger will offer you over the next few pages is a way to look at things as in a different register, to try and uncover a kind of, try to hear the voice, to hear the voice of things as things. And that, as I say, can be relevant to your practice. So we'll read. And again, I just want to remind you that reading is not compulsory, and if you don't want to read, just wait or something and someone else will. So if you are okay with it, then let's read the next paragraph. We're not going to read the whole text paragraph by paragraph. I'm going to point you to some key elements, but just to get the sense of how the story is going. So,
Optional to human as considered the thing as a thing, just as little as he has considered him as. A child is a thing. What is a child? We say a vessel, that which holds a matter in itself. What does the holding in the child are the base and the sides? This holding itself can be held at the angle. As a vessel, the child is something that stands on its own. This standing on its own characterizes the child as something independent. As there is of something independent, the child is distinguished from an object. Something independent can become an object when we represent it to ourselves, be it in immediate perception, be it in a thoughtful remembrance that makes it present. The input of the thing, however, does not reside in the thing becoming the object of the representation, nor can the input of the thing at all be determined by the objectivity of the object, not even when we take the opposition of the object as not simply due to our representation, but rather the opposition to the object itself as its own affair.
thank you very much, Lina, and I know it's not easy to read this. So, guys, we are doing philosophy, so it's not easy. What do you think is Heidegger saying? If you get anything from, yes?
I got something about subjective, the relationship between the object and the subject. So basically, on the one hand is my perception of the object, and that's not the thing in itself, but at the same time we cannot consider the thing in itself as just the object in itself. So I think there is a tension between the subject, the object, and
I think you're right. This is one of the key points in this paragraph, and it's very very good, Nico. And it begins here as a self-stand, and it's slightly awkward language. It's awkward language for people who were English speaking from birth. Most of us here are not. For most of us, English is third, fourth, 10th language that we speak. So it is not easy. But the job is independent. What does it mean it is independent? It means that it is independent from us. Independent from us. Because it is independent, it is distinguished from an object. So, as long as we allow the jug to be independent from us, it is not an object. Because when we see it as an object, then it is already ours. Because I am the subject, and this is the object. And you remember from last term how the subject, which is me, how the subject knows the world. By what means the subject knows the world? Very good. The subject knows the world by representing the world to themselves. So when I represent this to myself as a flask, it becomes an object. Yeah? But when it is an object, it's already not independent, because it's already dependent on the subject. So me and the flask now are in this mutual relationship. Yeah? And remember what I said last term, that the moment someone talks about objects, they also talk about subjects. They also bring in the whole representation framework. For that reason, this essay is called The Thing, not the object. If it was called the object, what it would be about? It would be about representation. Absolutely right. If the essay was called the object, it would be about representation. How things get represented as objects. Because this essay called The Thing, it will be about how can we know something without representing it? Or what is there outside of representation? So, what thing Heidegger is considering in this paragraph? A certain thing. What is the thing? Second line. The jug. Yeah? The jug is a thing. What is a jug? What is a jug? We say vessel. So, in order to understand the thing, let's take one thing as a case study. In that case, it is a jug. So, and again, I need to show you the jug. A jug. So, a jug is a thing. What is a jug? We say it's a vessel. What is a vessel? A container. Yeah? Something that holds something else inside it. Yeah? That's a jug. Now, Heidegger took a jug as the topic for this essay about the thing. He could take a measuring tape. Now, a measuring tape is different from a jug because a jug holds something inside it. A measuring tape does something else. If instead of the jug, Heidegger chose to take a hammer as a thing to investigate, then he wouldn't say that the hammer holds something in it. He would say a hammer drives something into something. Yeah? So different things do different things. Different things do different things. Yeah? Sorry, that's philosophy for you. Yeah. it goes like that. So we say a vessel, that which holds another in itself. Now, you might say, this is really basic. Isn't it like something kindergarten level description? Yeah, what is a jug? A jug is a vessel. What is a vessel? It holds something. But that's philosophy. Philosophy is about going on all four and looking at things at their own, at their island, getting really close to something. What does the holding the jug? Who is holding the base and the sides? That's what's holding. This holding itself can be held by a handle. So the jug is holding, but also can be held by a handle. And that's it. Well, why is that interesting? Because who is holding by the handle? Oh, a cat? A human holding by the handle. And the jug is holding. So it seems that it's human to hold. No? Holding is human. And then the jug holds. So what does it mean to you? What does it mean? What do we understand about the jug from the simple observation that the jug holds and human also holds? Yes?
Human also holds, the jug also holds.
What does it mean? So what do we understand from it?
They are the same.
Well, it's not that they are the same, but the jug is performing a function. The jug is doing something that humans do. Yeah? Now, if you really think about the jug, how long ago the jug, who invented the jug? Who is the inventor of the jug? Yes?
On a sort of a tangential but related note, this whole question of asking about the thing, when we just hear, makes me think, how could we ever understand a thing when things are made by humans in some instances, in other instances we find things and we use things? Is it not right tentatively say better to ask why we need a thing or why we use a thing?
Yeah.
Because using the jug, for instance, and Rorschach is right, the human holds and the jug holds.
Yeah.
So I guess it's more the question of the act of holding
Yes,
as
yes.
opposed to the understanding of the jug. And I'm confused about that relation.
And we are only in the first paragraph, but these are exactly the things that Heidegger will try to unravel.
Yeah.
But I just want you to think about, because I think it's such an interesting sentence. This holding itself can be held at the handle. And if you really think about this one little sentence, it can reveal so much. You just need to slow down and think about it. So I can hold the jug, I can hold other things as well. But then the jug also holds. Now the jug doesn't hold by holding something, it holds by containing something. So tell me this, who invented the jug? Human, yeah. And how do you think someone invented the jug?
Can I say something else? I think of it reminds me of the Plato's cave. So as a human, my intention is to drink the water in the jug.
Yeah.
So the jug holds, and also I hold the jug. Like the jug is like the forgetting vagina of the Plato was.
Very good. Absolutely spot on. Yes. And Irigaray, that we read, she really follows from Heidegger. Irigaray wrote after Heidegger. So we're not following a chronological history of philosophy. We jump back and forth. That's why you have to keep your wits about it. But Irigaray also has a book about Heidegger, when she argues with him bitterly, but also she really learned from him. You are right. But let me ask you this question. It's simple. What do you think the first jug looked like? Someone invented it, right? So what do you think the first jug looked like? Okay, that's right. Can you show us? Yeah, the first jug was 2 cup hands. Yeah? You come to a river, you're thirsty, you want to drink, the jug is not invented yet. You put your hand, you cup your hands, put them in the water and drink. And then some genius, because I don't think there is any other word for it, a genius on the level of Einstein or Newton, that kind of thing, said, well, why don't we take a couple of leaves and hold them like this and pour water in it, or clay, or sticks, or whatever. you know? And that's how the jug came about. The jug came about from making a shape in clay, in leaves, in grass, whatever, that imitates these cup hands. Suddenly, because with these cup hands, I'm holding water. Yeah, so now I made a holding vessel in my own image. It's like the function of holding that the jug has is a human function that we now gave to a jug. So in a sense, the jug is a form of artificial intelligence. Yeah? Because a jug, and then maybe there is something uncanny in the jug, because it is like a robot. It's doing a human function. It's a non-human device that's performing a human function. Yeah? So, just to take a slightly different example, what do you think the first house looked like? What the first house looked like? Okay. The first house was holding two hands above your heads like this when it's raining. Yeah? And for that reason, house roofs are like this in many parts of the world. It makes sense. No? First it makes sense because the water can run down. Yeah? It doesn't accumulate like on a flat surface. But also, that's how you would hold your hands when it's raining. So a house is another body, it's another human function outsourced to a thing. Yeah? What do you think the first hammer was? You know, a hammer tool? Yeah, it's a fist, isn't it? The first scissors, what the scissors was? It would be your teeth, yeah? At first you tear things with your teeth, and then you invent a device. But basically, you outsource, or let's say, the pliers are still made like a mouth with teeth, no? When you really need to squeeze something. Yeah? You know, as a child, you don't do it with your teeth, you know? You will ruin your teeth if you try to open a bottle like this. Yeah? Okay, so I think we need to finish because Pat wanted to talk to you about Moodle. So we just made a start on this essay. You know what? Just read it all the way through, but read specifically, carefully, the first 3 pages, and we will continue next week. Okay.